Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. Hearing about the war in Ukraine or other serious news items can be pretty frightening and confusing for many of us adults. How should we be discussing these situations with our children, or should we even be mentioning it? Joining me now is Dr. Janine Hubbard with this week's Get Psyched. Thank you so much for coming in. We were going to talk about Ukraine tonight. But, you know, you saw the top of our newscast. We have another situation now happening in Gander. How do we discuss these pretty heavy and serious news stories with our children who are most likely watching the evening news with us?
Absolutely. And yes, I arrived in the middle of a breaking news story. But really the same principles apply, whether it's a war in Ukraine, whether it's something closer to home. Keeping in mind that children under the age of about 7 are still going to have difficulty understanding the difference between fantasy and reality of images they're seeing on TV. So under that age, the more we can just kind of protect them from it and shelter them from it and not have them exposed to it, the better. And this is advice you've heard me give on multiple occasions. Ask your kids, what do they know about any news story? What do they know? What do they understand? What do they think they know? And then what questions do they have? Because again, all of that may surprise you. We may assume they don't know anything. And in actual fact, you know, it was a class discussion at school. Or it may be we make assumptions and actually, you know, they really haven't been tuning into it. So with really young kids, the biggest thing is reassuring them that they physically are safe and their immediate family are safe. That's often the biggest concern for kids, especially because they may not understand just how far away something is or who it might impact. So providing that reassurance and then modeling your own emotions, being okay to say, I'm confused, I'm sad, I'm worried. If you're scared, you can let them know that you're scared, but then you're going to model for them, what do I do when I'm having these feelings? So as much as possible, it's often becoming action-oriented. So it's maybe we can collect some donations for the Red Cross. Maybe we can find out some more information. And again, reassuring them that even though they may feel very powerless and out of control, that there are other people who are experts at what they do, who are there trying to help, whether that's governments, whether that's paramedics, that there are people there helping the others who are in that news story.
How much detail should we be telling our children?
Again, be careful, know your child, know their age. For very young children, we keep it very, very general. We may say something like, you know what, there is a war happening with Russia and Ukraine. It's kind of like that their ruler is a bit of a bully and he's picking on another country. Really important to remember that it's the leader who is involved, not the general citizens, because we don't want them developing, you know, fears of Russians in general. We want to be very careful clarifying that. And then again saying, but you know what, the other countries in the world, they're figuring out how to stand up to that bully. And then focus on some of the more positive ways that show how people are helping, whether it's leaving strollers at the train station. The stories that show, look, this feels impossible, this feels out of control, but there are things people are doing to help the situation.
And how do we process all of this ourselves? I know it's these stories. Rosie Mullally had a story last night, just heart-wrenching. How do we watch these stories ourselves? How do we rationalize it? How do we process it?
We need to kind of take our own emotional thermometer. And listen, there are some days where we can take in all the information and we can take it in intellectually and we can process it emotionally. And other days where we're just feeling so raw and worn out that's where we maybe need to take a little bit of distance. Definitely monitoring your use of social media because you don't know when news stories might emerge. Maybe it's doing something like going to the news station's website so you can control which stories you're watching and how much and when, as opposed to the live broadcast. Or saying, you know what, I'm going to avoid all news stories today, except I'm going to watch this 1/2 hour. And again, be mindful of where your kids are during that time. But as always, with all of these kind of situations, focus on what is within your control and then try to step back and remember to engage in all the important self-care activities.
Dr. Janine Hubbard, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.